What is up, my dashing dudes? I am the Hans TV, and today, we find out what happens when a Karen sees you sweeping your own back porch. In today's episode of r/IDontWorkHereLady. Our first story comes from The Real Morin. Karen thought I, a teenager, was a librarian, not meta, can't find any other flares. Because it is important to the story, I'm a 16-year-old female. I don't even look like an adult or an older teen. So, this happened a few months ago, at the end of the school year. I was volunteering for service hours in the school's library by scanning returned books and sorting them into piles. I was wearing an NHS, National Honor Society polo because I have to wear it to identify myself as a student volunteer. This lady, Karen, walks into the library and walks up to me looking angry. Karen, excuse me? Me, yes? May I help you? Karen, I'm not going to pay a fine that I'm not responsible for. Waves paper in my face. Me, I'm really sorry, but I can't help you. I'm just a student volunteering here. One of the librarians is in her office right now if you want me to get them for you. Karen, the issue is about textbook charges, and you are clearly in charge of that. My daughter returned her textbook, and the school is still fining me for it. Me, I'm sorry, I'll get the librarian to help you. Karen, don't just walk away from me like that. I'm a customer. Yes, she said customer. After I got the librarian's attention, she started to help with the Karen situation. She complained about racism. Both Karen and I are white, so how? And disrespect from an employee. And her textbook dilemma for a solid 5 minutes before the librarian could get a word in to say that I was not an employee. Thankfully, the situation was resolved shortly after. Turns out that Karen's daughter did return the textbook, but it had a huge coffee stain all over the inside pages that was not there when the book was handed out. The paper regarding the fine clearly said damage fines and specified that the book was stained heavily. Karen still had to pay the fine. Apparently, she thought she had to pay for a missing book. Excuse me while I get into the Karen's persona whenever she received this letter. I just received a letter from the school saying that my daughter owes a fine. Should I read it and see what it says? No, let's just go up there assuming it's because she didn't return the book and scream like a baboon. This next story comes from Ethan Dalton 96. If someone says you've called the wrong number, you probably have. Our house telephone number used to be 1 digit off the number for a local garden center. Unsurprisingly, we often got people calling us by mistake. We didn't really mind because it was quite funny, and the caller usually got a laugh out of it as well. But not Karen. When I explained to her that she hadn't actually called the garden center, she explained to me that she most certainly had. Well, who was I to argue? As they say, the customer is always right. My mistake. How can I help? Long story short, sorry to the actual employees who had to deal with what I imagined was a very irate Karen, and explained to her that there wasn't a 70% off sale on deck chairs. This next story comes from Squirrel Boy 315. Can you print my pictures or not? A little backstory before I dive headlong into this story, since it won't really make much sense otherwise. The first real job that I held on to for many years was at a photo lab. I developed pictures for both film and digital, using the ever-lovely Fuji Frontier 390. It was a workhorse and an ox. Think it processed photos faster than any printer I'd ever worked on, but it was also super expensive, which made them pretty rare to come by. After leaving the photo lab, due to them having some financial struggles, I went to work at a big box store where the employees used characteristic blue shirts. Now, on to the story. TLDR at the end. During the holiday season, I went into a local CVS before work to pick up a Monster energy drink. Holiday season in the US is quite brutal and taxing for retail employees, and I was a dumb kid, so I was probably up playing video games all night and needed a powerful pick-me-up. As I'm kind of browsing through the snack foods to see if there would maybe be something I would like to have as a quick bite to eat before my shift, I got a quick and vigorous tap on my shoulder. Plenty of force behind it, but I was barely a walking zombie from being tired. This hobbit-looking shrew puts her hands on her hips and says, "Excuse me, do you see that machine right there?" She points over to the photo lab at the CVS, and I see it. A Fuji Frontier 390. Oh, how much I love that machine. For some reason, I thought she was like a creepy white trash angel with the goal of reuniting me with this beautiful machine. I replied, "Yeah, I see it." She replies back to me, "Well, do you know how to use it?" Yes. Yes, I do. I want to use it. I want to push those dang buttons. I'm halfway between a metaphorical chubby and about to pass out, and without thinking, I said, "Well, yes, I do. Great printer, honestly." The Hobbit quickly turns into Gollum and snaps at me. "Well, get your freaking butt back there and print my freaking prints. Is this the type of service I'm paying for?" Full on 0 to 60 raging witch, screaming at me because she wants her prints now. And as my cylinders were all firing properly at this time, I didn't have a witty response and just kind of questioned the situation. "Excuse me? What? I don't think I understand." She gets angrier, face turning red, spit flying from her jowls as she hollers, "What do you freaking not get? I have been waiting for some lazy freaking employee to get off of their freaking butt and print my prints. I have crap to do. Can you not hear me or something? Are you dumb or are you just freaking stoned? This is the type of service I get here at CVS." Finally, at least one piston caught some gas and realized that she was crazy as crap, and literally oblivious to the fact that I was not wearing the employee-issued red shirts of CVS, and replied, "Yeah, I don't work here." She carries on screaming, "You don't work here? Are you freaking kidding me? You're wearing the freaking shirt. I'm not freaking dumb." I reply, "My shirt is blue." The response was awesome. "What the freak does that mean? Your shirt is blue. Are you telling me that logo right there doesn't say Best Buy? Crap. OMG. Crap. OMG. Yeah, I just rolled out. Let her ponder on her life choices at that moment. Employees asked me if I was okay. It was funny. Didn't really need the monster after that. TLDR, a customer at CVS asked me if I knew how to use a specific printer. I did. She shouted at me until she realized I was wearing a Best Buy work shirt, not a CVS shirt. Again with a Karen and their baboon screeching. Come on, be nice to retail people. Our last story for the day comes from Was It Work? Karen mistakes me for the hired help. After browsing this subreddit for a while, it triggered a memory of mine from a few years ago. Instead of work, this happened to me in my own home, but I still think the story falls under this subreddit category. This is my first post, so if I make any grammatical errors, I apologize in advance. Oh man. No, what was that grammar? Also, this was 3 years ago, so slight paraphrasing in the beginning, short version in the bottom. Meet the cast. Me, Karen, a grumpy old woman who I have never met before. For a bit of backstory and context, I live in a fairly affluent area in Australia, where entitled parents and Karens tend to flock to cafes and my local Woolworths like there's no tomorrow. Nevertheless, I love living in this suburb. It's a safe area with a strong community. However, the rich entitlement can be draining. Anyhow, I digress. It was during the summer months of Australia, roughly 3 years ago. It was a quiet weekend at home for me. I was busy doing chores, cleaning the house, vacuuming, etc. My mum, who I love dearly, is a bit of a clean freak, to put it mildly. And one of my chores was to regularly clean our small outside patio/sun deck of our apartment during the summer. It's only about 1.5 meters wide, so not a large thing. During the warm season on Australia, we get droves of fruit bats eating from the fig and avocado trees that overhang our garden and our deck, and that year was particularly bad. Bat crap was everywhere. The actual story. So, as per usual, I grab a hot bucket of water and the strongest soap we had and got to scrubbing away the bat scat like a woman on a mission, routinely washing away the suds and scat with fresh hot water. It's important for me to note that I live on the top floor of a 4-story building, which means the water will slosh off the sides. Yes, I always check over the banister in case any of my unwary neighbors are walking along the sidewalk below. Another piece of relevant info for later is that we have a private enclosed garden area on the other side of the pathway for residents to hold parties. Anyway, there I was scrubbing and sloshing when I smelled the distinct scent of cigarette smoke. I look over the side and I see a woman, the Karen, and clearly not a resident, puffing a cigarette like no tomorrow. My building complex has a strict no smoking policy in certain areas. One of these areas was our private garden. We had a problem with visitors and residents leaving their cigarette butts in the greenery, so building management decided to make a no smoking area policy. I wrinkled my nose at the smell, but didn't say anything. I'm not really a confrontational person when it comes to these things. Some water made a fairly loud splash on the walkway floor, which must have alerted the attention of Karen. Karen, oi! You can't do that! Me? What? At first I thought she was talking to one of our neighbors' carers for the old couple downstairs, so I ignored it and continued what I was doing. Karen, oi! Oi, I'm talking to you! Me, oh, me? I point to myself. Karen, in a snippy voice, you can't do that! I'm getting soaked with your dirty water! Me, confused. Our garden is divided by a wide path and elevated about 2 meters above this path, which was also blocked by a thick layer of bushes. There was no way the water could have hit her. But me being the peacekeeper, I reply, oh, I'm sorry if some of the water splashed on you. I'll be done in a few minutes. Karen, no, you need to stop. People live here and you're making a mess of everything. Me, really confused. Ma'am, I'm simply mopping my deck. I do this regularly. Karen, hands on her hips. And you shouldn't be cleaning it when residents are in the garden. Me, it clicks. Oh, she thinks I'm a cleaner. Ah, I'm a resident here too, ma'am. I live in this apartment complex. This is my apartment. Karen, no, I know full well that the last names live here. A bit of context. I'm adopted. My parents are Caucasian and I have Southeast Asian heritage and look relatively young for my age. I'm 25, so I'm often mistaken for the hired help, unfortunately. Plus, I was in an old t-shirt and my sweatpants, no makeup, and looked and felt like the beautiful definition of a drowned rat, so there was that. Me, I know, I'm one of the last names. I would have thought that would have been the end of it, but nope. Karen scoffs at me in disbelief. Someone like you doesn't own and live in an apartment like this. Me, now I'm annoyed. As an Aussie, I have a right not to prove my identity, but I was tired from cleaning all day. It was sweltering hot and I very much wanted to pour the rest of my dirty water on this woman. I wanted the last word. Madam, I repeat, I am a resident. I live here. My name is Was at Work and my parents are Mum and Dad. As a resident of address, I'm allowed to clean my deck whenever I please. Karen, flustered but gains her snippy composure. Well, I'll inform the building manager that you're disrupting my quiet time. I'm a resident here too. Me, almost shouting over the banister, and I'll inform building manager's name 1 and 2 that you're smoking in a non-smoking area. I know full well you're not a resident. I've never seen you before. And my building managers, who happen to be my next door neighbors and good friends of mine, a true fact, couldn't give a flip about me cleaning my deck. Karen finally shuts up, red with embarrassment, and hastily puts out her cigarette on the edge of our shared garden table. Much to my extreme annoyance, it was a nice granite table. I moodily finish my mopping and head back inside to make myself an extra strong coffee. I ended up discussing the smoking matter with my mum. Turns out that Karen is one of the many caretakers for the old couple downstairs. My mum, bless her, said that she'd been warned about smoking in our garden area by the building managers already. I got a good laugh. Bit of an anticlimactic inning, but something I'm very used to. As for Karen, she avoids me whenever she's on shift. On the occasion, I do bump into her in the halls. I'm always dressed up to the nines and greet her with a warm, crap-eating grin and always wish her a good morning short. A caretaker mistakes me as the hired help while I'm mopping my outside deck. I have to prove I'm a resident. Alright, my dashing dudes, that is going to do it for today's episode on r/IDontWorkHereLady. Thank you to everyone who's subbed so far, and if you haven't already, go ahead and drop a sub and leave a comment down below with what you'd like me to read next. We're going to start doing suggestions on Friday, and I really want to see what y'all want me to read. But with that being said, I'll see you in the next video.